All right, it is time to talk about the waiver wire. As always, we are going to do two sort of standard league suggestions and then one long shot who would be rostered in fewer than 25% of leagues, although we're more in like 10% territory right now. In terms of game count next week or NBA schedule, uh, Charlotte is the only team with 2 games. Everyone else has 3 or 4, so not a ton of streaming opportunities to be had in terms of relative strength. I'm going to kick things off. Last week, he was a long shot. This week, he is a standard recommendation, and that is Ryan Rollins of my Milwaukee Bucks, who is 34% rostered in Yahoo leagues, 46% in ESPN. Again, shined yesterday against Golden State, had a career night, looked awesome, proved that he's a guy that can take on more usage. 32, 8, and 3 out of Rollins last night. We still do not have a firm timetable for KPJ. He's day to day. So, like, maybe Rollins won't start when KPJ comes back, but it's hard for me to imagine he doesn't see something like 26 to 28 minutes a game. I just don't think you can pull back and say, oh, Rollins, you're playing 23 off the bench now. I think, if anything, I don't know if KPJ will come off the bench, but I think it makes more sense for the Bucks if KPJ came off the bench. We'll see what Doc Rivers does. But I would pick up Rollins and hold and see what happens.
I like. Yeah, I have KPJ in a different league, and frankly, I'm quite nervous. Quite nervous about his standing. All right, my pick, very simple. Why not? My not. The Celtics people have finally found their power forward. I live in Vermont. I'm surrounded by Celtics fan. I myself, of course, a Celtics fan. And of course, spoiled New England sports fans are all griping about a bridge year for the Celtics. And I say, hey, this is our year to find our Jose Altuve. That references baseball. Houston Astros were tanking for 4 or 5 seasons, giving playing time to folks that generally didn't seem to deserve it. And what did they do? They uncovered an MVP in second baseman Jose Altuve. Do I think the Celtics are going to find a MVP? No, but if they can find an excellent rotational player at a cheap discount off the scrap heap, fantastic. And I think Minott might be that guy. He started the last 2 games, and in those starts has averaged 13 points, but more importantly, 11 and a half rebounds to go with 2 steals, 1 block, 1.5 triples while shooting 55% from the field. The local station here is calling him the lawnmower because of his endless energy. I'm not sure that really applies. You need gas to power a lawnmower, whatever. But he is extremely energetic, which this team needs. But maybe most importantly, he is rebounding. This team was horribly out-rebounded in their first 3 games of the season. Minott is crashing the boards at 6'8". He actually might be a legit power forward, and there is no competition at the power forward spot on this Celtics roster. It's all smalls pretending to be power forwards. Boston has 4 games this week, so pick up Minott. By the way, I also want to add Ryan Kalkbrenner. He's still only rostered in 23% of leagues. We talked about him last week. That's insane. Grab him, even though Charlotte only has 2 games. But why not Minott?
Why not? I had him when he was with Minnesota. I had him on our staff keeper league as a G leaguer. In 23-24, he scored 22 points per game in the G League, 41 fantasy points per game. I'm a believer. So if you're hoping for a Sam Hauser or a Chris Boucher breakout, probably not going to happen. But who knows? That Celtics front court is going to be crazy all season. Moving on, though, to my first recommendation of the week, I'm going with a rookie, Jeremiah Fears, guard for the New Orleans Pelicans, 6% rostered on Yahoo. The 19-year-old rookie guard has started back-to-back games for the Pelicans. He put up an absolute dud in his first start, but in his second start, he finished with 21 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 1 3 in 30 minutes Wednesday against the Nuggets. We're only 4 games into the season, and the Pelicans are an absolute mess. They've lost all 4 games while posting a league worst minus 19 point differential. Fears was selected 7th overall in the talented 2025 draft class. like most rookies, he's going to have his ups and downs, but it wouldn't be a surprise to see the Pelicans give him an extended look as a starter at the expense of Jordan Poole, of course. I believe that Fears is worth an ad in most 12-team formats.
And we know they don't have their first-round pick next year, so Fears would continue to be their developmental player as they regret that horrible trade up to get Queen. But, maybe Zion stays healthy and learns how to rebound and turns things around. That's sarcasm. That is utter sarcasm. Love the Fears pick, Shannon. Love it.
Yeah, Fears is a guy who passes the eye test. Like, you watch the Pelicans play, and you're like, whoa. Like, he looks like he's an NBA player already. So it's glad the stats are coming with it. And we'll see what happens with the Pelicans. That's all I can really add to that. My second waiver wire suggestion is Nickeil Alexander-Walker of the Atlanta Hawks. 30% rostered in Yahoo, 29% in ESPN. Like mentioned before, we are still waiting on MRI results from Tre Young's knee, but they've already said it was a sprain, and he's not going to play tonight. Alexander Walker has stolen Dyson Daniels' powers, like in Space Jam, the Monstars. And through 5 games, Alexander Walker is averaging 16 points, and honestly on percentages that should improve. And that's been with Tre Young available for a lot of this. So he's averaging 16 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, 1.4 steals, and 1 block in his 30 minutes per game. And with Tre Young off the court, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 9% usage increase. So I think you add him now, and you're going to get someone productive, and we'll see how long Tre Young is out.
They don't really have a backup point guard on this team.
Keaton Wallace is okay. Case and Wallace's brother. So he's play hard defense, and he can pass a little bit, but he is not like he hasn't shown a lot. Let's put it that way.
Who would have thought that the Hawks would be rolling out a 2022 Pelicans backcourt as their starting lineup?
Yeah. It's sort of like how the Kings are rolling out the Levine DeRozan Bulls team. Who's your next guy, Ken?
My next 2 picks are both more short-term grabs, kind of streaming plays. Tre Jones of the Chicago Bulls, he's rostered in 37% of Yahoo and fewer ESPN leagues. He started all 4 games for the Chicago Bulls with Kobe White out. And early reports, it doesn't seem like White is close to returning. Over those 4 starts, Jones has given a solid 12.5 points and 7.5 assists with very strong percentages. It's not a great 3-point shooter, never has been, but points, assists, and percentages, nice play there. I think he could be a solid contributor for 2 more weeks. And I do hope we eventually get some good news on Kobe White.
Yeah, I like the Deuce Jones pick until White returns. All right, I'm going to move right into my second suggestion. Bilal Coulibaly, wingman for the Washington Wizards, 24% rostered on Yahoo. We discussed him earlier, but Coulibaly made a season debut for the Wizards Thursday, finishing with 16 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 1 steal, and 2 3-pointers in 24 minutes. Most importantly, Coulibaly was immediately inserted into the Wizards starting lineup, replacing Bub Carrington. Coulibaly missed the entire preseason and first 4 games of the regular season due to a ligament tear in his right thumb. Based on Thursday's game, he appears to be fine. At 21 years old, Coulibaly is one of the key pieces of Washington's young core alongside Sarr, Keyshawn George, Tre Johnson, and we'll toss in Carrington just to be nice. But Coulibaly, what he really needs to do is show off an improved shot this year. It's his 3rd season. Especially from downtown. He needs a better stroke from distance to really live up to his full fantasy potential. But with the 4 stocks we saw on Thursday, that just shows his upside on the defensive end. He's an immediate add for me in even 10-team leagues, but absolutely 12-team leagues. He should be pushing like 80% rostership.
Yeah, and you may not start him every week, but after the trade deadline, you could get crazy benefits. If McCollum and Middleton are gone and Coulibaly starts handling the ball more, and if he shoots better, I mean, I agree with you, should be rostered. My final suggestion, my long shot, although I don't really consider this a long shot, but Jarace Walker, forward for the Indiana Pacers, 10% rostered on Yahoo, 6% on ESPN. With all of Indiana's injuries, they are maybe, if not definitively, the thinnest roster in the NBA. Mathurin is week to week. Toppin's out for a month. Nembhard is day to day, but I don't expect him to be rushed back. We're seeing like a Ray J. Dennis, who is also, if you're in a really deep league, take a look at that because he's passing the hell out of the ball. Jarace Walker, solid in the first 3 games of the season, showing off his versatility, kind of did what he did in the past couple of years, but really broke out in this most recent game against the Dallas Mavericks, which was a close game. He had 20 points on 5 of 19 shooting, 4 of 10 from 3, got to the free throw line 7 times, hit 6 of those. Also had 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and a block, and played 36 minutes. Per 36 for the entire season. He's averaging 13, 7, and 5 with 2.1 stocks, and he's only shooting 29% from the field. So I'm going to assume that the field goal percentage increases there, and you can average something closer to 15, 16 points per 36. You may have to, if you're in a category league, you may suffer some field goal percentage issues along the way, but I think Jarace Walker is close to a must-add in 12-team leagues.
I will reiterate, that's not a long shot. That's go get Jarace Walker. His minutes could be insane. It's a real shame what's happening in Indiana. And Carlisle's going to keep pushing the pace, especially with a thinner roster, right? Like, what other alternatives does he have? So it's going to be a lot of shots for all the remaining Pacers who can stay healthy. My long shot is a long shot. And also, I think, though, a nice short-term play is Collin Gillespie of your Phoenix Suns. 15% rostered on Yahoo, 12% on ESPN. I have forgotten what our long shot rules are. I hope that qualifies. But he's getting big minutes with Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks out injured. And I think more importantly, though, and long term, I think he's kind of the only true point guard on this talent challenge Suns squad. He's played over 31 minutes in each of the last 2 games with a really nice stat line of almost 15 points, 9 assists per game, 2.5 steals, 1 block, and 3.5 triples. This team lacks talent. They need to uncover some affordable gems, and Gillespie could be one of those gems. And like I said, maybe the only true point guard on this roster. Suns were a disaster when they insisted on having Booker play all the minutes at point guard. I'd love to see Booker at shooting guard or even small forward and let a true point guard set up these scorers to play a traditional game. Don't turn into the Orlando Magic of the last decade without a point guard.
Yeah, even after Green returns, I could see a scenario where he's like this year's Ty Jerome, providing decent value, especially in deeper leagues. I like that. I like that suggestion, Ken. All right. My final suggestion, long shot. Collin Murray-Boyles, forward for Toronto Raptors, 6% rostered. The Raptors selected Collin Murray-Boyles. That's a mouthful, man. With the 9th overall pick of the 2025 draft. CMB, he'll forever be dubbed from now on. Average 16.8 points, 8.3 rebounds, 1.5 steals, and 1.3 blocks in his sophomore season at South Carolina. The rookie forward has played 24 and 25 minutes in his past 2 appearances for the Raptors, which included a spot start at center for Jakob Poeltl. Murray-Boyles has averaged 16 points, 1.5 steals, and 3 3-pointers in those 2 outings. Now, CMB was projected as a strong 2-way player, very much a Raptors pick that needs to further develop a shot. Does that ring a bell for their past few drafts as well? But he's hit 3 triples in back-to-back games. That 3-point shot seems to be coming along a lot quicker than most expected. I think there's upside here, especially in 14-teamers, maybe deep 12-teamers, where he's widely available. If you have room on your bench, he's worth the stash.